Hey guys, welcome to the daily analysis for March 4th, 2013. Today the market moved pretty slow, but nonetheless I think there's still a lot of potential setups that I'm pretty interested in covering today. So we'll go through these pairs. Euro is one that again moves slow, but that doesn't mean that it's not slowly setting itself up for a better trade. And so even though again a slow start to the week, I think we could have a really big week breaking through some key levels and definitely some potential trade setups that I'd like to go over. All right, so we'll get into that. First, we'll take a quick look at our news and go over our terms. Then we'll jump right back into the technical analysis and the daily charts. All right, guys. So you see, there's some red tag euro news going on in the London session tomorrow. Definitely want to check that out if you have trades open, especially if they're euro crosses. Have Spanish services and Italian services, so of course two key players in the eurozone that you want to pay attention to. 4:30 a.m. comes pound news, so another services announcement for the pound. And so between the euro and the pound, obviously those London type markets, you'll want to pay attention to that red tag stuff. As we get into the New York session, pretty quiet. The one announcement is ISM for US dollar, and then we don't have anything else until 7:30 p.m. Eastern, which is odd. So overall, a pretty light news, but you do see that even on a light day, we have Euro, Pound, AUD, and US news. So we're covering for the major currencies on the news day. Even though it's not packed with news. So again, not huge, but definitely some announcements that if you have those crosses on, you'll want to pay attention to. All right. And next, we just want to go over our terms real quickly. Basically, the point here is that the United States government has certain regulations in place for companies like ours and many of the other online, educational websites, that we need to make sure that our material is taken as only education and not as investment advice. So because of those regulations, we want to make sure that you see this, that you understand that we're not giving you investment advice, that we're just giving you an educational view, our point of view, to be taken for educational purposes only. All right, so if you need to pause and read through that and make sure you understand it clearly, I advise you to please do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and get over to our charts. Alright guys, so on the euro dollar daily chart, you can see again not a lot of movement, but we are right near the 1.3 level, 130, right at the bottom of the zone, which I think is a great support zone. And so two things I'm looking at here. Of course, we could get the immediate break, which would definitely lead me to believe that this is going to our 50 fib level, right around 128. I think that's a good level for the euro, and I wouldn't be surprised if it tries to work its way toward that level. But of course, because we're right at the bottom of the zone, you can see there's a lot of bounce potential. Definitely an area where we could see some buyers come in and see a bounce right back up to the top. If we do get a bounce back up to the top, right into the 130, 140 or 130, 150 zone, then I'll think definitely short from that point, because this thing looks like it wants to move down. There's a lot of momentum behind the euro weakness, and the US dollar strength. The sentiment for the US dollar is remaining pretty strong right now. And so this is an area where we could see a hook back right up to the top of our zone here and a continuation. Now, one thing, we've already really had one hook back, so it wouldn't be surprising if we actually broke through without another one, but wouldn't be surprised either if we just retested that level. These are major levels we're talking about. Definitely potential for retesting. So really the moral of the story here is not to try to predict whether it's going to break or bounce, but to just be ready for either one. An immediate break would definitely lead me to believe, again, that we'll get down here, and a pullback would definitely lead me to believe that it's going to go short and retest the bottom of the zone. Or if not, break all the way through the zone on a retest either. So basically, I'm bearish, but I'm waiting to see which kind of pattern takes place. A break right now, a continuation early in the week, whether that be tomorrow or Wednesday, or a nice strong pullback into the top of our resistance area, actually more of a support and resistance zone, and then a continuation from that point. So I'm open to either one. I'd like to trade either one. On a break here, because there's not a ton of room, I would need to get in on a tighter stop loss, maybe taking an hourly continuation trade or something like that, so that my stop is pretty tight, maybe just a little bit above this zone, and that way I have a good risk to reward. If it pulls back here and continues from that point, it's a little bit easier trade because my stop loss is just a little bit above this zone. I'm targeting the bottom here for maybe move up to break even, then a potential breakthrough for a much bigger target. So makes it a little easier if we get the pullback. But either way, I'm willing to trade it, and definitely excited about the opportunity of the euro continuing toward the south and the major reversal potential. Right now, we're seeing the minor reversal, but I'm still thinking that we can see the major reversal, which would look something like this. Okay, so that's euro. Definitely think there's a lot of potential there. Let's move to the pound. All right, next we have the pound dollar chart. Of course, every time you see it, it's just amazing to see the fall here and the pound weakness and really how far it's crashed already and how much more room it has to go. Kind of what we talked about during the weekly analysis Friday is even though we're in this major fall, there's still a lot more room. Now, what's interesting about the pound is I was just telling my compadre Tony is that I'm very bearish on it really long term, but at the same time I like a long position at this current time because we're setting up right at 1.5, which is a great support area, 1.5 on the dot, and a little inside pin bar showing a little shift in momentum. And so what's great about this is that we could see an obvious retest of a major level right at 153. And so even though that's not a major move, actually from the close of today's bar looks like it'll only be about 175 pips, it's still a good entry point because this is going to act as a magnet to pull price in typically. And so even if this thing's going way down, even if you're bearish like I am, you can still see the likelihood that it comes up and retests 153 before heading lower. So it's one of those rare situations where I'm very bearish on a pair, but still like a shorter term long position, and that's what I'm looking at right here on the pound. As a matter of fact, I'm already in long on the pound, got in on an hourly continuation again because this stopped right on a dime at 1.5. I thought, okay, here's an area where we could definitely see a move back up, and there's a major zone here to target. And so one of the things that makes me want to get into a trade is when I see a potential area that's going to pull price into it, like this 152.80 or 153 to round it up area. And so I'm up a little bit, not up huge. Got in on the middle of this daily bar. Like the risk reward, like the stop loss placement below 1.5, and really like the target area around 152.85. And so again, very bearish, but at the same time, liking a long position. Kind of one of those paradoxical things in trading. All right, US yen continuing to slowly move up at the end of last week, but a little bit of stall action today before getting up into the beginning of our resistance zone around 93.90. Not really a major resistance area that you'd expect to crush price back down, but definitely a big stalling area from the last time it was on a steep move. So you'd think that it can definitely provide that resistance, even though it's not a historical price where we've necessarily seen moves go up and then crush back down. That's not a typical thing that we've seen at the 94, 94.10 or 20 level, wherever this price really stopped. But nonetheless, because price stopped there last time and just kind of channeled and slowed down, we'd expect to see price struggle again, even if it is going to make a new high and break through. But anyway, we got a nice bottom out here right around 90.9. That's basically where this massive bar stopped at. And then a little bit of rounding out action, and Friday was actually the most bullish day we've seen in recent history. And so far this week, of course, just a small stalling action as the yen has shown a little bit of strength recently. And the question is, are we going to get a move into this level and the possible continuation of yen strength back to the downside? Now, USD is also pretty strong, one of the stronger pairs across the board for the past few weeks. So if you're thinking about taking the yen long, of course, a US yen short would be a yen long. Maybe better to pair it with a different currency other than the US dollar. But nonetheless, I mean, you can see that U.S. yen and the yen really itself has fought to not go any higher than this in recent weeks. This move to slow down like this is a lot of momentum stopping. It's not momentum shifting because it hasn't really gone down too much, but it's at least momentum stopping. And so kind of we've developed this zone here where we're either going to see a break to higher highs or we're going to see a move in a reversal toward lower lows. Now, I personally definitely like this reversal potential because we didn't build a ton of support and resistance areas along the way up, and so if this fell, it could easily fall, all the way down to 82.50 without facing a lot of support. And so to me, that's an exciting idea when we're talking about trading, but we need to wait for these things to develop. And I think that with the USD strength, I still like yen strength potential and the reversal potential here, but I'd rather pair it up with euro or AUD or something else. And so even though I think that US yen could also be in that same boat, for me, this is what I'm holding off on and actually looking more to the euro and the AUD and the potential for the yen. So that's just my analysis on it. Either way, I think that the yen, if it gains strength here, could be a great move back to the downside against these other currencies. Alright guys, excuse my really zoomed out ugly chart here on the USDCAD. Just wanted to give you a reference for this trend line and kind of where I'm getting this idea that we might have some validity here and a move back down in the USDCAD, which is something that I'm now thinking pretty seriously about. Let me zoom back in here on this chart as I want to show you this trend line reaction. Earlier in the day actually, we had this pullback right off that potential trend line and it started moving back up. You can see the spike initially. I actually jumped on long halfway through the day here because I thought, okay, we're going to get a quick retest up to here. It's an intraday trade, nice 1-to-3 risk to reward ratio, and I got up quickly in the first 15 or 20 minutes, and then got hammered on that trade as it moved back down. So kind of learned my lesson on taking a trade without having a longer term plan, which is something I preach, but in trading sometimes it's difficult to control the emotions when you see the potential, and so it's always nice to lose some money and get reminded of how you should trade. And I say that sarcastically because that's never nice. But anyway, looking at definitely some short potential here. Typically, I'm not someone who likes to jump in long and then say, oh no, that was bad and I want to jump in short. But considering two things, number one, the long-term potential here for a short back into a major zone, as I was talking about before, major zones are always things that I like to ride into as well as trade off of. And the other thing is that the buy was not really a great, well-executed setup, so I can almost just pretend like that one never happened in terms of the mental approach and actually look at this as really a nice short potential. One thing I'd like to see here is just the move below kind of the middle here. This is like a centering of this bar, so a move below that would be at least an indicator that this is trying to actually reverse and not just a little pullback before a move back in the trend line and potential break. But overall, I think the USD CAD has good short potential. Now I say that because I actually like US longs in a lot of other areas, for instance, Euro shorts and things like that. And so what the USD CAD would do, it would give me an opportunity to short the US dollar while going long on the US dollar in other currencies. And that's something, as you may know, that I really like to do, is have a long and a short on a given currency where I have the opportunity to win both trades and also have the hedging type of protection. And so that's one of the things that I also really like about this USD CAD. So either way, some potential there. It's funny that I've talked about the USD potential and really the strength potential there, yet I'm long on pound dollar and thinking about shorting USD CAD, which are of course both US dollar shorts. However, again, I really do like doing that because it gives me the opportunity to short USD, or excuse me, to go long on USD somewhere else and have that kind of hedge in place. And so that's really one of the things that my strategy tries to incorporate, is taking some long-term potential setups that do provide that hedge and protection. And so a long on pound dollar and a short on USD CAD wouldn't be a typical trade to take both at the same time, but I have a shorter target on the pound, which means I could win the pound trade, get out of that trade, and then look to short the USD CAD a little bit later in the game as potentially it were to move lower. And so a lot of different things going on. Like I said, slow movement today, but still at the same time a lot of trade potential. And we'll see what happens as we move further into the week. But I personally think this could be a great week for trading as some of these things are set up in major zones like the euro dollar, like the USD CAD, like the pound dollar, and many more. All right, so that is the USD CAD. Let's move over and cover the euro pound. Alright guys, so the euro pound, of course, still in this big zone that I've drawn out. I can now think that one thing I'll do here, and I'll do it right in front of you in the daily analysis so you know what I'm thinking, is I'm going to make this zone look like this instead. And what I'm going to go ahead and assume is that this is actually just a fake and is not part of the sideways market that we have right now in the euro pound. Because, number one, we're at a great Fibonacci level, which is the 61.8, and that makes a better bottom than a random area that we'd find here. The other thing is that you can see how many times price has tested this compared to this. Just one drop down to this level compared to many drops down in this area at 85.70. So this is now the zone that I'm looking at, which means that a break here, perhaps a break, retest, and a go here would be tradable, even though it's not below this level. And so I think that's important. I know that if you guys are following my analysis, you want to know what levels I'm looking at. So I just want to update you on this, and that this is actually really the bottom that I'm looking at here, and think that a breakout of this bottom is still a very potential trade, even though we have hit lower since this kind of range begun. So if that doesn't make sense to you, if you want more clarification on why I changed that up, leave a comment. I'll get more into that because I think it's important to open yourself up to adapting things like that, and I can do a little lesson on that if you guys are interested. But that's really the level I'm looking at now. 85.67 to be exact is the bottom, and it's also what I find as the 61.8 level in the recent down move on the euro pound. Or not recent, but longer term down movement. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for here. Potential break to the downside. Think it could go at least to our 50 fib level, if not lower. And would be very excited about taking that trade actually because of the reversal potential and how easily it could fall. Alright, and the last pair I want to cover today, guys, is the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. Another one that's in a major zone that we've talked about. Great move down today, really spiked with an impulsive move to the downside, coming all the way to 101, and then reverted back up, similar to what we saw with USDCAD, jumping up and then coming back down. AUD is another one that I'm pretty bearish on. I think that the move here could definitely lead to a break and moving lower, but we are at a good level for support. So again, here I am, kind of ironically saying that there's definitely potential for AUDUSD long, which would be a US dollar short. We have this trending area. This is not a perfect line, but definitely a zone trending downward that it could come all the way back up to retest. We could just see a retest in this area, which is another nice area at 1035. I think that's definitely a potential testing level. But I also think a move to the side and then a break is potential. So a lot of different things there with the AUD. To me, the AUD US is a great pair to short, or a great pair to potentially short, because from the bottom of this zone to our next zone down here, there's not a lot of support and resistance. There's definitely some, of course, always some when price moves, but this is a nice big drop. Let me draw an arrow here. It's a 390, well, actually about a 400 pip drop from the bottom of this zone to the top of this zone. And I don't know about you, but I would love a 400 pip drop, especially when you could, take a break and maybe have a 40 pip stop loss, or 60 pip stop loss. So to me, I'm excited. I don't want to be too biased on the AUD short in case we get a good bounce, and I don't want to miss that as a trade opportunity. But I'm kind of hoping that we get a bounce and then a good clean break through this area, through parity, through 99, through 98, and toward our 97 level, which I would love to hold on for that entire move. So that's my feelings on the AUD. I'm not opposed to taking it long, but certainly relish the opportunity to take it short. And just another pair that's in an area where we could get some good trades. So tons of trade setups, as I said. I think almost every pair we covered today has a really nice potential trade coming in the near future. And I would definitely advise you to draw these zones that we talked about today, to be patient when these trade setups take up, or when they're setting up, excuse me, and then to look for those opportunities. Good risk reward ratio, good momentum trades, good levels to target, good levels to place your stops at, all that kind of good stuff. It seems like it's all setting up across the market. So hoping for an awesome March, awesome first week of March, and I look forward to recapping this tomorrow and seeing what we have then. Alright guys, thanks for watching the analysis. Please do take a minute to share it on Facebook, to tweet it on Twitter and all that stuff if you don't mind. I really appreciate that. It helps us get our analysis out to more people, which is really our ultimate goal as a website, providing this free information. So take a minute to do that if you don't mind, and leave a comment if you have any questions or comments. Talk to you guys tomorrow.